What's up guys, Chase here. Today I have something pretty exciting for you. This is going to be a full installation guide for a Krytac P90 for the M trigger. This is a pivot style trigger for the P90 that uses a Perun ETU. So as you can see, this just came in. It's got some information on the back here about what it is and my customer's name on there, who I'm installing this for. So let's kind of go over what's in here first and get the lay of the land before we start building anything out. So you've got little patch here, and that's nice. This is the actual board right here. So this is where that's your trigger switch right there, right? And then that says Cry magazine, so that's the magazine cutoff. There's your HPA leads, and then I can only imagine that that is the plug that goes to the Perun ETU right there. So that's your little actual trigger right here. The rest of this, well, I shouldn't say it's your actual trigger, that's your trigger brain. This is the trigger itself. So it's got a few different wire conversions in here. Suffice to say, this is it's like a mouse clicker trigger in there. So it's a pivot trigger. So the normal P90 is, it's a linear trigger, right? So you pull it, it's on safe. Semi, you pull it a little bit. Full auto, you pull it all the way, and that gives you full auto. So this is gonna come out. This little guy is going to go in, and this trigger should be a lot more responsive. It appears already. It's like a little mouse clicker in there. A lot more responsive, a lot quicker reset than that, and you can not have full auto be on a very slow trigger pull. You can have full auto essentially on command, so that'll be nice. For the record, the gearbox was already ready to come out. The only thing that holds the gearbox in on this is this little plate right here. So this plate essentially goes in like that, and then you put these two little screws in the holes. My customer, the user of this replica, had already taken that off. So easy enough, the gearbox literally just slides right out. We also won't be needing the top half of this for really any part of this, and it's just kind of getting in the way. So for the top part of a P90, there's a little button right here. You just press that down, and this is your hop unit with your barrel. This is where your magazine, not the catch necessarily, but this is where your magazine will lay, your Picatinny, all that good stuff. So we're just gonna throw that off to the side because we don't really need that. This customer also said that they were having low FPS, and something doesn't seem right with that tappet plate, so I'm gonna have to check that out anyway. Most of what we're doing today actually is not gonna be in here. That'll be the next video. It's gonna be this little guy right here. So to my knowledge, there's a butt ton of these little screws in here, and then this trigger unit, along with its dastardly little selector right there, should go right in here. And this is already on sort of a ball bearing, like a three position thing. And this has those three little position guys in it right there. So I'm gonna assume that that's where that goes. The real trick is definitely gonna be getting this out of here, but I don't think that'll be too hard. It's really just a bunch of these screws. And then here it looks like we have some like 3D printed shims for the selector, right? So the selector. So it looks like little shims there, so you can kind of save maybe some reduced friction or whatever the case may be. We'll see what it does. We'll see how it chooches, and then if we think it needs anything over and above, we'll do that. Right, we'll get there. We'll get there, but we gotta do what we gotta do first, and what we gotta do is we gotta do it. All right. So these look like Is this a T15? No, it's a little bit too, it's right in the middle. There's no way. T20? That's too big. Okay. All right, so that's a number 3 Allen. Didn't fit in any of the Torxes. It's just an Allen. This is a shame because usually a Torx nerd. I'm not an Allen head, unfortunately. I'm a Torx slut, but that doesn't really want to come out either. Let me try. That's not even a real screw. Maybe that was why that was. That's just plastic. It's fraudulent. I've never actually taken this apart like this. Obviously, I've been in the gearbox plenty. Everything in that gearbox is aftermarket at this point, and it runs like a champ. But he puts probably about 2,000 rounds through it a weekend, and so when you're doing that at 29.9 RPS, things get a little bit haywire with your compression system and your gears and stuff. It just puts more wear on stuff. It's natural, you know. It's just part of the charm, you know. And I told him, I said, you know, if you want performance like a Ferrari, you're gonna get maintenance like a Ferrari. If you want a Honda Civic, you get Honda Civic maintenance. There's definitely a gulf in performance, but you know what? I think it's different for different people. He still has his Arcturus PP90 that he got, and that thing's bone stock, and he's really been loving it. He's playing it more as a CQB rifleman, more so than a SMG, which this P90, if I had to argue anything, the Krytac P90s are probably, they're definitely the best of the bunch. Unfortunately, I've seen people with the cyber guns. I've seen people with a number of other little ones, but nothing has really, like, the polymer quality on this is devastating in the sense that it's actually so much better than everything else on the market that it makes me sad just knowing that this this kind of plastic polymer quality for P90s is available, and there's only one place to get them. So, but you know what? It's how the world works, I guess. But I will say that if you are looking at a P90 and if anything sells you on one over any of the others, don't let it be any of the trivial features of like magazine cutoff or you know, anything like that. The thing that would sell me on the P90 the most, now that I've seen all of them, is definitely that the Krytac has the best polymer. It patinas like a good polymer. It doesn't like, because some polymers, they get kind of shiny over time, you know, like you use them and you get the kind of the oils on your hand on them, and you're, you know, and that works into it and it polishes it a little bit, you know, like it actually, like, it'll kind of smooth out some of this textural surface on there, and then you end up having like a smooth polished polymer. And that happens with cheaper polymers, but you can tell if there's like a abundantly better polymer because the way it patinas is it almost kind of like mats out rather than polishing. And you can kind of see that where the hand grips, like it's definitely worn, but it's worn in a way that's not detrimental to like you handling the platform. So I've seen the other ones and I haven't been, like, nothing's really particularly impressed me about them, with the exception truly being the Krytac's, not even build quality, but just the material usage is top notch. Okay, so now we have all of these screws out. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. This one doesn't want to come out. It's being a little bit a pain in the butt. He'll come out when he wants to come out. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 of these little screws, and then of these big screws, these are like machine screws that are holding this thing together. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You got a dozen like M3 set screws just holding this thing together. Pretty cool, pretty crazy. What that does mean, however, is that we do need to take this bad boy apart to get the trigger unit in, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I'm not sure exactly how the magazine catchinator is going to come out. I think it's going to be a little explosive, if I were to hazard a guess. Maybe. All right, I figured it out. You'll have to excuse my cat. He's over there destroying a box. So, the way you get this shell split on a Krytac P90, after you've taken out the dozen screws, the machine screws, plus the 4, including this one, what you need is a little tiny flathead or like an X-Acto knife or something. You pop the corner around there, you pop the corner around there, and then there's a spring in there. And then to put this back together, all you do is you put the spring in here, jam that back in, it'll clip over this. There's a little catch right here on this side and on this side. And now the whole shell just comes right apart. And there is the inside of our Krytac P90. This is the other side of it. I imagine this isn't a very common view for a lot of people. So let's just kind of go over what we got here. This pretty simple design here. Let's get this other half out of the way. And let's see what we're working with right here. Oh my God, baby, you're being so loud. Okay, so pretty simple mechanism here from what we can gather, right? So this is your trigger. This is your power, right? So you've got this little guy in here, and this is our toggle, our toggle detent right here, right? So that guy, we're gonna keep him right there. I've got 2 little Phillips head screws on here. I'm going to put my flathead back for the time being. Grab a little Phillips guy. Hey baby, can you lay down? Can you just be a little cat and lay down? Okay. I think it's sufficiently comfortable for him to lay down. No, he's biting the box. Okay. So this whole linkage system here, right? So let's kind of take this out and see what we're working with, right? So this is really a tappet plate spring. That's literally all this is. This is a tappet plate spring, maybe a little bit shorter, but same concept. This whole bar slides right out. All right, slay, easy. All right, so that bar is effectively our trigger bar. This is your trigger contacts. Then there's this other bar, which I can only imagine, yep, that's like, this is also part of the trigger, but you can set your pickup for the trigger with this screw right here. All right, so this is like also part of that. We'll put that off to the side for now. And then here is the main culprit, the impetus for this whole project right here. So this is really just your big old straight funky trigger and your selector. And then here, in essence, is the new trigger. So it'll sit right about there. And then this is your new selector. So you can see the actual size of the disc is pretty much the same, but they've kind of accentuated, instead of having these like thumb holes, they're kind of like actual like points. I'd be interested to see how this actually performs, like how durable these are, because if they're sticking out too far, then that may kind of be like a snap off kind of hazard, and then you have a less effective thing than you did before. But you know, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so here's my trigger. This trigger is really gonna sit kind of right here. There's a nice little groove for it. So I also need my selector. And this, in theory, is gonna go on there, kind of sit, like that, right? And all the way there, and all the way there. Okay, cool beans. This is just my little slide for the thing, you know, the thing. So this also replaces that trigger bar with, obviously you've got your mouse switch in there, and then you really just have this whole system kind of going in here. I'm going to be interested because they didn't really give any true instructions on how to like set this little John up. So I'm interested to see how this goes. In here, we've got another one of the little trigger switches. So it's nice that they give you another, another one of those little guys. And then, yeah, we got some of these little shims here. They literally just look like flashing almost of the bottom of the, or of the little groove in here. But I guess that just sits in there, and that maybe kind of smooths it a little bit, you know, or maybe it's meant to shim it to maybe keep it a little bit, I don't know. Maybe if you have a little bit of slop in there, that'll keep it a little bit more proud, or true, I should say. It'll keep it true. So that trigger feels pretty dang good, man. Pretty dang good. Okay, so take the 3 off that go through the gearbox, but also have the ETU on board, right? Take that and that. You know, one more little guy up here. Make sure you don't forget him. So also for the record, they don't really give you a manual with this. So I kind of just, nobody I've seen online was actually able to figure out the P90 separation of the body trick. So as far as I'm concerned right now, we're in uncharted waters. And that, be that as it may, I will kindly ask you to give me some grace as we figure this out, because there literally isn't a manual for this guy, for the trigger. And there's nothing, nobody even figured out how to get inside the box. Like, people figured it out, but nobody really published it, is my point. So, bear with me. Okay, so this sits right about, I gotta put it in right, right. So that sits right there, right? So, in here, this is my cutoff lever that I'm not really even sure is gonna be used. I also know that no ifs, ands, or buts, I gotta wire up the motor, right? So here, we're gonna do negative on this one. Make sure it fits nice. Oh, that's pretty good, okay? Then we're gonna put our positive on here. Okay, so we got our little cutoff lever. We've got our ETU, which I'm interested to see how this is gonna sit in here, but I'm thinking if we kind of go like that, it's really not far, well, this needs to be over back here actually, because I'll show you. So if we put this back in, I'm not even worried about that right now. Okay, so this goes back in here, right? It sits right there. The battery needs to be right here. So it doesn't really give you a lot of room. So whatever we do is probably gonna need to run over this, right? So let's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, but the holes look a lot smaller. That doesn't look like it's gonna wanna fit in there. Maybe? You're wrong? I'm wrong. It's okay, happens all the time, I'm wrong. So, I guess now all I'm gonna do is just try this out. Okay, so that did a thing. The piston's fried, Okay, I can live with that, but the piston's fried. So now let's do the actual ETU thing for this, right? Okay, so this is just this. I need to read the manual for this ETU, which I will do, and then I will come back and I'll tell you how to do it so you don't. In here, and now in theory. In theory, when I plug this battery in, it's probably going to cycle or do like a little beep, 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 right? Okay, so we got a beep, right? So now my trigger's here, and this is my Perun, and I'm trying to see if there's like a light or anything I can sort of... Okay, so that is supposed to be semi? Yeah, so that's supposed to be semi, but obviously it doesn't detect the cutoff. So right now it's between blue, green, yellow, green, yellow, green. Gearbox cycle detection failure. Okay. So now obviously, okay, so this is my cutoff lever. So this actually needs to go right. Gee, I need Christmas. Okay, I see. The cutoff lever goes up. So this really needs to be like, how am I gonna get this under here? Hey, Editing Chase here. So I wanted to clarify what I'm doing in this step here. On that trigger board, there are multiple different holes that the cutoff lever can be placed in, depending on the manufacturer of your P90. There's a different one for Tokyo Marui style, there's a different one for G&G style, there's a different one for HPA, and there's a different one for Krytac. So what we're doing here is I'm just trying to figure this out, and I'm going to fumble along until I figure out that the cutoff lever itself can in fact be moved to a different place, and then the proper orientation of it. I had to move it over, but not only that, I had to kind of flip it around 180 degrees, so it was making the proper connection. So what you're going to see here is sort of the culmination or the shortening of this. I didn't need you guys to listen to me fumble around with this for God knows how long, so I figured I would just dub over this and speed it up to save you the time. Suffice to say, just know what model P90 you have, and then make sure that you put the cutoff lever in the corresponding holes on the trigger board, and you'll be good to go. I just say I put that in my bong and rip it, you know, like let's just put it on here and see how it does. Maybe it just needs to be the opposite direction. All I'm saying is it doesn't give me, like the way it was oriented there prior was not making me, was not sparking joy, you know, wasn't. So I'm hoping maybe with this I can spark a little joy. If you catch my drift. Where'd that little guy go? Okay, so that one's good. That one's in happy. And this one, still trying to find its buddy. And there it goes. All right, caught. Grabbed a little bit. Okay, so I had to flip this around, but it looks like it's getting, yeah, that's actuating a little bit better. So now let's try this on semi-auto and see what it does. Okay, yeah, look at that. That's an actual semi-auto. Gearbox doesn't sound great, but that's not really why we're here right now, if I'm being real. However, I can't let it go on like that, so I'm gonna tune it just a little bit. That sounds fine. Okay, so now we got cutoff. We got semi-auto. We got full auto. We've got the cylinder fixed. The trigger is freaking amazing. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take, I think the way you should probably do this, if I'm being real, is never take this off if you can help it, and try to just take off the the motor terminals and then take the whole thing out. So that's the way I'm gonna try to like do this now that I put it back together, right? So in theory, this you wanna kind of be over here. And they're really not giving you a lot of room to budge with these wires here, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie. They're really kind of pushing it with how little wire they're giving you on offer here. But it's okay. We'll figure it out. That's what we do. Okay, so that's in. I'm quote unquote happy with that. So that's why we didn't really tighten them down all the way, just so I could kind of make sure, because once you tighten that, it's kind of like dropping the guillotine, you know? Like if you have any wires in the way that ought not be in the way, you better check, because once you cinch them things down, your wire is gonna be cooked. All right, I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we have, I'm gonna put the gearbox back in and all its, so I've got my magazine spring and then my tricky little magazine catch here. So this, you've got the little back plate on there, your little spring, you can kind of sit it on there and then rest it in this channel on the magazine catch. And then you literally just push it back in and it'll pop around that piece, and then that's on, right? So you're good to go there. So this is all back together. What I'm gonna do now, put the gearbox back in, and I'm interested to dial in the take up and the backlash of the trigger to see if we can maybe get some improved trigger response out of this. It's already really good, but the whole point of having an adjustable trigger is to get it like dialed in to where like you have a very consistent and effective trigger. And quite frankly, I think my friend here has earned the best P90. You would be hard pressed to find another P90 on our field, or on really any field that applies like standard milsim SMG rules that can do what this little guy does here, right? Like it's pretty insane. He's right at SMG limit, so it's at like 0.99 joules, and then yeah, they really don't give you any space to work with here with this thing. I'm not a fan of that, if I'm being honest. I think I might make him a bigger wire. Okay, full auto. Full auto. Semi-auto. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I've got a little tiny like grub screw inside this thing. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust the pre-travel, and it's gonna hit the trigger, and then I'm gonna back it up a few little turns. And then the take up is how far it'll go after. Okay, that's insane. That is probably the crispiest P90 you're ever gonna find. Holy shit. Okay, let me see, does that want to go that way maybe? And sit right there, perchance? That's the one thing, is that like, it definitely doesn't have the same like ergonomics as the stock one. Because it's, again, trying to be everything for everyone's P90 and not something special for one person's P90. Okay. So now I'm having the trouble of this cable here kind of getting in my way. There's got to be like a way, you know, like every airsoft gun has like, oh, this is how you do it. You know what I'm talking about? Like there's always the way. See, I can see the wire in there. I don't like that. I don't like that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not a fan of these wires, man. They just need to be different lengths, I think. I think if you make the short one literally half an inch longer, you would be golden. I just think it's ever so slightly too short for the Krytac P90. Ever so slightly. And just that little bit is making a huge difference in the wire management, because then I have to use a wire which looks like it's pretty clearly designed to be the one that goes from the MOSFET to the from the trigger unit to the MOSFET and holds the MOSFET closer to the battery, right? Or like closer to the battery compartment. But you're just not getting that with this right now. So I'm holding, just in case you're curious about what's transpiring right now, I'm holding the wires back, in theory. We're gonna see how it jives in a second here, but everything's in theory. What I'm doing is I'm gonna hold the wires for the actual like trigger unit, not back, but sort of out of the way with this hook pick. And then what I'm gonna do is as I pull this in, it's gonna kind of go with it a little bit. But my intention, I'm really just, okay, now it's in and I'm gonna try to turn it out. Okay, so now what I'm just trying to do is make sure that the wires for the trigger are not going over, because they were, when I put this in here, they were showing up inside there where the nozzle is, and that's no good. So as you can see, I'm having a great time with this now. It's always the motor wiring that the wire management on this. This ETU, obviously it just came from the factory. If I were to do this build and I was like, okay, like, you know, and I might, we'll see. I'll see what the guy's interested in, because he might just want this thing back. It's been out of commission for so long. I would totally understand, and I wouldn't fault him for that in the slightest. All I'm saying is that, you know, if that was something he'd want, I would probably, for my own convenience, remake some of the wires and maybe change the way the back plate. No. Okay, I'm bitching. Okay, so this piece is gonna go in here, and your battery cable kind of comes through the middle right here. And then the bottom part, hello? Okay, I'm upside down. Okay, so bottom part hooks in down there. I'm gonna use my hook again to kind of pull these through. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, so now that can go down there. That can be right there. And this, you push the little lever in there, or the little thing in there. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Then you want to line up those holes. That's what she said. So then you've got these little screws right here. I say little, they're not really that little. I think this is the right size. I'm confident it is. Okay. So you're gonna want to push that in and make that happy like that. That'll go in. Again, don't put it in all the way. Do not put it in all the way. Put your other side in. You have some room to budge, room to give, because your other side will almost assuredly not go in as easy as your first side went in. Okay, so now I'll tighten that one down, tighten this one down. And now the P90 is effectively as back together as you would need it to be. So let's test this out. Plug that in. One thing for sure is that you're not getting an LED status light, since your little guy's all the way back in there. You would need to take the gearbox out to get a status light. But you know what? That's okay. So here, then full auto. That trigger is pretty insane. So obviously there's no barrel or anything on it right now. So let's take our upper here. We're gonna slide this in, and it should sound a little bit better when it actually has the proper upper on it. Yeah, it deafens it a little bit. Okay. That's pretty crazy, man. Not gonna lie, that's pretty crazy. Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty thrilled with how this turned out, if I'm being real and honest with you. The trigger, that's the best trigger you're gonna get on a P90. Really, I don't think that's really up for debate. The stock trigger, sorry, I'm just kind of trying to tune it a little bit. Okay. That stock trigger is pretty bad, but you can go to full auto and literally, it's pretty nuts, dude. Pretty nuts. Okay, so I'm gonna do some chrono with this, just see how the chrono fares, and then I'll show some video of that. But I think that's it, guys. Like, really, this, I don't have the back plate, so I can't really do anything about that. I'm sorry. But this is like, that's it right there, guys. Like, you have here your Perun ETU++ M trigger P90. All right, that's, I guess maybe is this your thumbnail right here? Is this it? Let's cut this tag off. All right, y'all. Perun ETU++ M trigger P90. Nifty little system. I'm super happy with how this has actually come together. Let my mistakes educate you, because if you watch this whole video, you will be able to install this trigger, no problem. But if you don't, and you're not familiar with any of the instructions, might have a hard time. That being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and stay tuned for more content.